Welcome to Visualize, the podcast where collaboration fuels change. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and each week we'll explore incredible connections between nonprofits, businesses, and the community. This is a space where we highlight inspiring partnerships, uncover strategies for creating meaningful impact, and share stories that show how working together can make all the difference. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, or someone just passionate about building connections, this podcast is for you. Welcome back to Visualize. Today I have Jason Hughes from ArtServe. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into the role of working here at ArtServe?
Sure. I started my career in Atlantic Records in New York City, actually, after University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I went to school, took journalism and mass communication there. Worked at Atlantic Records. That was way too much fun. So I moved back to Toronto, Ontario, where I'm from, worked at radio stations there, for-profit radio stations, which was, I learned a lot about the industry that way. And then I started my own magazine called Fresh Magazine. And Fresh Magazine was aimed at Gen Xers, 18 to 34-year-olds at the time. Okay. Now we're in our 50s. But we still read magazines, believe it or not. So I had that magazine. It was a arts and culture magazine. We covered everything from fitness, finance, sex, photography, art, like that. So I had that magazine for a while, sold that magazine. And then I was recruited to be part of starting the first LGBT television station in the world called PrideVision TV. Now it's called Out TV. So I was the director of sales, then became director of sales and marketing. I got on the programming side, launched another channel, pay-per-view channel as well. So that was a lot of fun. And after that, I was recruited in Toronto to come down and start Classical South Florida Radio, which was a nonprofit public radio station. We were based in Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. And then we bought stations in West Palm Beach and Naples, Fort Myers. So we were the largest radio network in the state of Florida at the time. So I started as director of marketing there, then became the general manager. In between that, I was on the board here at ArtServe. I volunteered. I served as on the board of ArtServe. I was board president for 2 years, and our CEO, our executive director, had left, and I quit the board and applied like everyone else, blind to interviews and stuff until they met me, and I was hired about almost 5 years ago. Wow. Right when COVID started. COVID started March, so this was August I started. So when I started, we were closed. So that was fun. When we're closed, yeah. And our first exhibition was on Sudanese art, and I felt terrible because we couldn't have an opening, nobody could see the art. But what we did was a thing called ArtServe Live, which is very similar to what you're doing here. Where we had over 100 episodes with artists. We talked about depression. We talked about how to sell your art, how just what they're thinking. If everybody knew what was going on. And the curator of that exhibit, I apologized to him. I'm so sorry. Your first exhibition here, my first one. There's nobody here. Yeah. But we did everything virtually, everything on the internet, and we actually got a way wider audience, an international audience, because everyone was on the internet. So that really is what built our online audience, our database of people knowing us through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Sure. When we opened again, then we could have people again, and life was good. Then they closed it down again, and then we reopened again. So it's been an interesting journey. But what's great is our team here. We're amazing. They continue to be amazing, and so I've been in this role about 5 years now.
No, we've been blessed to be here. Working with you guys at ArtServe for over a year now, and it's just been fantastic.
It's been a year. It's crazy.
I know. It's like kind of like rushed through it. Like, whoa, what happened to this last few months?
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, it's been a year.
Yeah.
So it kind of like went really fast. And one of the things I didn't really realize that you guys closed and reopened and closed again.
Yes. Well, all the county buildings, all the state buildings were closed the second time. So it was only about 6 weeks or so, but still. We had to find ways. My job is to bring in money for the organization as well as run the organization. So, having to meet donors and meet people, it's difficult. A lot of people weren't having lunches or going to events. There were no networking events for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Everything was kind of closed down. And
yeah.
I mean, for me, I was up in Minnesota at the time, so it was kind of a different space. Definitely in Minnesota, we were closed down.
Yeah.
Like there was no movement, nothing was happening. Everything was at home.
Right.
But I did hear some states did open up for a little while, then close back down. There was that fluctuation.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really get to experience that same way.
You mentioned Minnesota, so the Classical South Florida Radio was owned by Minnesota Public Radio.
Oh,
American Public Media Group.
yeah. Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
Prairie Home Companion, all those Marketplace, all those shows were the company that I work for.
Oh, that's
So I was
fantastic.
in Minnesota all the time in your winters.
In our winter.
Yeah. But I managed to figure out how to get out of the airplane from the airport to a taxi or Uber right to the hotel, and then never have to go outside again because of all the raised walkways.
Oh, the Skyways are amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
just 2 times I had to be cold. In from the Uber, out to the Uber. That was it.
You had to make sure you were bundled up really well at that point, but
yes.
the minute you were in there,
Yeah.
those Skyways are fantastic.
Yeah,
they really got you anywhere you wanted to go in downtown Minneapolis.
And we were St. Paul. So
oh, yeah, they do have a smaller
Yeah.
network of Skyways there, but if you're ever in Minneapolis, that was where I spent most of my time downtown, and that one was fantastic. We would go for 45-minute walks during your lunch,
Right.
and you could walk all around the entire city
Yeah.
just inside the Skyways. It was fantastic.
It is amazing. Toronto has a similar thing where I lived. It's underground.
Oh.
It connects. You can walk. Same thing. You walk 45 minutes. Like in my condo, I could go downstairs, down below the basement, walk in the underground, and go to the gym. Like a 40-minute walk and back, all underground.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that Toronto had that same kind of system, but more
underground. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the other things that we would love to talk about is a little bit about the collaborations.
Yeah.
So what collaborations have you had here at ArtServe with either some other for-profits that's kind of like, move the organization forward, or even some other nonprofits that you've brought in and like worked together with?
Yeah. Our job, our goal at ArtServe is to collaborate. That really makes everything much more rich in the experience. Funders, people applying for grants, possible sponsors, donors, love to see that collaboration. It's really important. So almost everything we do is a collaboration. So we bring other partners in. I can give you an example. We did an event with veterans. We did a veterans exhibition here, which is the first time we've done that. And we did usually we do like a big opening. Sometimes a big event in the auditorium, and we involved Mission United, which is part of United Way. We worked with them. We worked with the USS Fort Lauderdale, the commissioning ship. They're still trying to keep, the name alive, even though it's in Norfolk, Virginia, parked there since 2022. But Pat Dumont there, she's an amazing champion of it. We worked with a few other different Ed Morse Automotive.
Okay.
Because we honored Teddy Morse, who was, or Ed Morse, the father, who was a veteran as well. So we honored him. So that kind of collaboration was really exciting to bring all these different people together. Just as recently, we did a collaboration on Thursday with the Broward County Status of Women event, which they honored 18 women in Broward County, a lot of judges, former commissioners, people who started nonprofits, activists. So we partnered with their planning committee. Believe it or not, we worked with Tito's Vodka, gave us a grant for it to help offset the cost for it. You wouldn't think that kind of partnership would match.
Not necessarily, but I mean, honestly, at the same time, it's good branding.
It's great marketing. Yeah, it's great branding, good marketing for them. And, so that kind of, you just never know where there's money out there and people who want to collaborate in the for-profit side. You just never know. Sometimes you have to ask. When we did the mental health exhibitions here, we purposely went out to a lot of the healthcare providers, the Holy Cross, obviously your Broward Health, who were involved. But then you get some of the for-profit companies that are also interested in, being part of that, because the mental health issue is a huge issue in every sector of the economy, of life. Right now, it's extremely important. So further one we did a one-off kind of town square. ArtServe in some ways become a town square for ideas and people to talk. So we did a one-off night for people who are unhoused and homeless, 2 different things. Homeless and unhoused are 2 different things. We brought in Showering Love, where they actually had the showering buses here to see tours of that. I think we had the mammogram bus here at that time as well. We had all these just different people here, and then we invited through Hopesville, Florida. And they brought some people who were unhoused, and we had a student art exhibition. So these are students who go to school, of course, but at the end of school, they go home and live in the car, with their parents. And the art that these students did was incredible. So we had a little mini art fair for them. And the impact of that was one lady said she works at a rent-a-car place by the airport. She works all night. The kids sleep in the car with the father. Kids go to school. She sleeps in the car. He does his shift and come back. And
Yeah.
and the issue is they lost their job during COVID. Their home, during COVID. And in where we live in Broward County, you need first, last, and security deposit for rent. And the rents are so high here, often that could be over $6,000.
Easy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even a question. Like,
Yeah.
And that's probably even just for a studio for some places.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that is a lot of money to come up with just to even get in, to have a safe space to call a roof over your head.
And I hadn't thought of that. It's that, even if you have jobs, doesn't mean that you don't have the money to put down on a place. And then if you have children, you need 2 bedrooms, sometimes 3. So it's a lot. The other thing we did was we had one of the organizations create what a food bank would give, to show like beans, just it's enough protein to get by in a day. But that's not the kind of food that are given out to networking events and galas and balls. You know what I mean? Right. So we wanted people to experience what homeless and unhoused people eat every day.
Oh wow!
So that kind of collaboration, bringing those people together, is exciting.
I think that would be very eye-opening.
Mm-hmm. It was for me,
because honestly, when you think about it, you do go to a gala, you go to a networking event, and you probably have a nice surprise. You have sandwiches, you have. Sometimes, depending on it, you have shrimp and you have all this amazing food choices. Right. But then you come to this one event, and here's your protein.
Yeah, here's your protein. Yeah, here's your carb.
Starch.
Yep.
Some rice.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it.
And this is what people are living on. And it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Because, I remember when I was talking to my best friend, and she was having some money issues at the time. This was years ago. And she specifically said that her therapist said, you need protein, and beans are cheap, beans and rice, and that's it. Wow. And I didn't really put it together until you just said this again. It was like, that's very true, that there's a lot of good protein in beans, but it's not that flavorful. Right? It's just very bland.
Right.
But at the same time, it does get you some of the nutrients that you need to get by.
Exactly.
And we are blessed to have other options out there, and not everybody has that.
Right.
So
exactly.
We need to take that into consideration. So I really love the fact that you put that in an event style so that people could see it and experience
it. Yeah, I think that was really important. I tell my nieces and nephews, I have 22 of them between my husband and I. That's a lot. I tell them all, you're 3 months away from being homeless. You're 3 months away from being homeless. You need to have cash on hand, available. You need to have a plan. You need to have a support group.
Yeah,
built in. You can't just wing it. Because everyone is 3 months away from being homeless.
It doesn't take much.
No,
one wrong
thing
that goes wrong, there's an extra bill and a medical expense, whatever that case may be.
Foreclosed,
boom. And you lose your job.
There's a lot of things like that. So that's why I so much enjoy working on ArtServe and doing what we do, because we can talk about these issues and talk about these ideas and bring them to community. And a lot of what we do is we try to research and hear what's going on before the community even knows what's going on. Like, we were one of the first to do a mental health exhibition. We were the first one to do a veterans mental health exhibition. Specifically, we met with Broward, BSO, Broward Sheriff's Office.
Yeah.
We met with some Fort Lauderdale police about their needs from their mental health perspective. I mean, that was just eye-opening. And some of their officers exhibited in the exhibition in mental health.
It was an amazing exhibit. I remember we brought some of the people that were on the panelists back, and we actually interviewed them. And so it was fantastic to have Heather and Kat and Ed even come back here and specifically get some of those in-depth interviews after the panel was actually
right.
done.
Yeah,
great.
It's like a debrief. It's interesting to bring that up, because panelists, you get up there and you plan for it, you execute it. You can't really remember what you said.
Yeah,
and then people want to talk to you afterwards, which is great. But then it's nice to have a one-on-one time with yourself or an interview like that. Just kind of think about what just happened.
It's more perspective. You get to relive it, but in a different
introspective
way. Yes, introspective. So it is that taking that debrief, like you called it, and I think it actually brings it forth, oh wow, I really did talk about this, and I really this is real. You're taking it in a little bit more deeper. So I think that actually was extremely valuable that we actually got to help put that video together.
It was an incredible video. What you guys do is incredible. Documentation video, I'm your champion.
No, thank you.
I mean, that's where it is. Also, I think it's important when you're collaborating is to not only have the quote experts in the field. It's good to have regular everyday people up there sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes we don't do that as much as we should.
Yeah, honestly, I think, in my opinion, I really wish that there was always at least one person that's not necessarily in the field, but it's the regular Joe or Jane or whatever we're going to call them, being on that panel to get the other perspective, because sometimes we don't get the whole round scope because we're living in our industry. We talk specifically our own verbiage.
Yeah.
And then everybody else doesn't actually hear it or understand it.
Right.
But if we could pull it together and ask the right questions so that everybody is like, oh, that's the way that they're interpreting and that's the way they're explaining it, because you have that other person on that panel to really pull it in.
2 examples of that. I wish we'd done the Unhoused exhibit or event a little differently. I wish we did it more in the round in a way and not on stage, because the people who talked about their actual experiences were in the audience, and those were really sometimes more impactful than the executive directors of the organizations who are talking about their organization. And I can say, no one wants to really hear me talk. I would. That's why my introductions are quick and sweet, over with. But I want to give time for other people to talk, and I think that would have been really good to have that more in the round. Another example is we did a coming out day, National Coming Out Day. For a couple of years, we used to do a panel there, and one woman came and said her son had come out, and her husband, divorced her, dropped the kid, and they're stuck alone with him because he came out. And we had this dialogue with her, and she was in the stage off the stage, in the stand, in the dark, in the chairs, and I brought her up to the stage to just to talk, not on stage, but to talk a little more, because what she was saying was more impactful. So you can collaborate with other people in the community, in your own audience, and you don't even know they're there. You don't even know who's there.
You really don't, because there's so many people out there that their stories are the ones that actually make the most impact.
Yeah. Well, that's what reporters do. I mean, reporters don't go interview the CEO all the time. They go and interview the people who are impacted.
Exactly.
Right. That's what a reporter does. And I like to think, I think my journalism background, having my magazine and taking, journalism at Carolina, is that I think, and even with the way we approach things, our curator, working with her to try to figure out, we're journalists. We're trying to figure out what the issues are, and we try to figure out who do we bring in together.
I think that's what makes ArtServe such a hub for moving forward, bringing something ahead of the curve before everybody else in the community actually gets to it, because you are looking at it more as a journalist.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make sure that, hey, we're staying current. Yeah. And we might even be ahead.
Right.
So you're taking those issues, you're bringing them forward and making sure that's being discussed.
And the great thing about ArtServe is having, Visuals by Momo, having you and Chris and Momo here yourself, and all our other organizations like Funding Arts Broward here, our artists here who are artist studios. We all can collaborate, talk about different ideas, and don't know how we can help each other out.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, we recommend you guys all the time to everybody, and you recommend, hey, come to ArtServe, hold your event here, that kind of thing. We're working together. Have you seen Sharon Swift's art? Have you seen
exactly
Julian Castro's art? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nature of this incubator that's been set up. It was set up in 1989. Was so brilliant, because we were only one of 6 arts incubators in America in 1989. Today we're the only one of those 6 remaining.
That's
and now there's art incubators everywhere, right? But because the model worked at the time, one of 6. So I mean, that just shows how the community has supported this organization. It also just shows the need for ArtServe and an organization like this, where it's important we have a diversity of people, for-profit and non-profit companies, different types of artists. And the goal is, I mean, the artists don't want to maybe hear it, but we want them to come here and then we want them gone, because we want to bring new people in.
Well, yeah,
that's the goal.
You want to get them to the point where they've learned what they needed, they've gotten the skills that they needed, so that they can get their own space.
Exactly.
And so they're actually bringing out and doing bigger things.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal.
That's the whole goal.
Like
you said, it's an incubator.
Yep. Well,
you don't have baby chicks in an incubator forever. You have them until they've grown, and then you set them out into the the pasture or wherever they need to be.
Well, a lot of kids still live at home in their 20s.
In this day and age,
yeah. Back to that rent thing.
It's a lot of the rent thing, especially with all the prices going up and everything. Yeah. But one of the things that I love about being here, and I do bring people here a lot, because I like having the meetings here specifically.
Right.
And so we get to use the Creative Hub. We get to walk people through and say, hey, here's all these different tenants, all these different people here in ArtServe. And I walk by and like, here's, Wham, here is Sharon Swift, here is Julian, all of these different pieces.
Yeah.
We get to showcase them.
Yeah.
And we get to do it as a community, as like a family almost.
Exactly.
As being a part of ArtServe. So I love
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what you're saying. Yeah. And we love that. I mean, I love giving people tours here. I tell them, do you have 5 minutes or 50?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Yeah. I would like to know, because I could like go on and on, introduce people to everybody. But I mean, that's one, the biggest pride I have is introducing new people here to, like you guys and all our other tenants and artists and stuff. And because half the people coming here never know this side exists of the building.
They don't.
No.
They actually see the auditorium,
gallery.
They see the gallery.
Yeah.
They see a library, and that's like they kind of like stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we didn't know I could go back there.
Right. Well, back in the day, you couldn't.
Sure. Sure.
That's why we opened it up.
When did it actually open up back here for the tenants?
Well, it's always been, this used to be the business center, and it was a computer center back in the 90s. Computers weren't around, so it was a very big computer center. And when tech went, everybody had their own computers and printers and stuff at home. It wasn't necessary. So these were always some degree of studios and offices, but it was always kind of doors were closed. And that's what I wanted to do, is open the dours up. Like the Creative Hub we have right now was a gift shop that no one ever went to. I'm like, and I wanted people to have a place they could come, fire up their laptop, have a cup of coffee, meet other people, and just relax. There was no place to sit here. You know what I mean? And it's such a great place because it's in between the business center and the studios and the gallery and whatnot. So that's why we created the Creative Hub. This ArtServe is a safe space for everybody. And
I do feel that, and I really appreciate that, because that's something that you don't have a lot of those spaces out in the community. So having ArtServe here be a safe place is, important.
It is, yeah, yeah. And you see that by, the Art Fund Foundation Hall. They sponsor the hall at ArtServe, our big hall. Recently, this last year, we had Florida Power and Light Company sponsor our gallery, which is a great for-profit, major company investing for several years in ArtServe and what we do. And when those sponsors come on board, others want to be involved. Others want to be involved in it. And then they start to see other people's art. Other people, we have Designed by Momo here, when they would never know. And then they go tell people about it. It's that trickling effect, the trickle effect of it. So, which is really, really, really cool.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Visualize. We hope that the inspiration and practical insights can help you foster stronger connections and meaningful change. Don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a review. To learn more about Visuals by Momo and how we support collaboration and storytelling, visit visualsbymomo.com. A huge thank you to everyone out there listening. Until next time, remember, collaboration fuels change, and your connections can inspire the world.